welcome everyone to the Engineering Management and Operations Management Programs Information Session. We're glad you can join us today. We are housed in the College of Engineering in the Industrial Engineering Department at the University of Arkansas. We have 3 online Master of Science degrees in Operations Management, Engineering Management, and Engineering. We also have graduate certificates and brand new MicroCertificates that we'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation. So welcome. My name is Karen Hickenbotham. I'm marketing and communications in the programs I just mentioned. We ask that you save all questions until the end of the presentation, and we'll be utilizing the chat box for that. So I want to thank you again for joining, and thank you for our special guest presenting, Jacob Mahaffey, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate everybody showing up.
Thanks, Jacob. Glad you could join us today. So we often get asked, what is the difference between engineering management versus operations management? And the simply is kind of the difference between a more technical degree and a more applicable knowledge skills type. So with the engineering management knowledge areas, you're going to be in financial management, but you're also going to be dipping into leadership, systems thinking and engineering, some project management, quality management, as you can see those 10 areas on the left side of your screen, as well as on the operations management side, you're going to be dipping into more of the goods and services. You will have some quality management, process design, locations and layout strategy, human resources, scheduling and maintenance, and supply chain. So what is operations management specifically? We like to say that it leads and manages business and government operations to effectively create and deliver products and services. So that includes the 10 OM decision areas that we just mentioned, that is listed out here that we just went over. And then engineering management, it leads technical workforce to develop new products and services to achieve strategic objectives. So it also provides a bridge from engineering to managers. So anything from the technical side of creating a product to moving into more operations management, which is how that product is going to be delivered, stored, and how it's going to be sold. So the admission requirements for the Master of Science in either OM, Operations Management, or EM, Engineering Management. For the Operations Management, any bachelor's degree from an accredited institution will be accepted. There is no GRE as long as you have a 2.5 cumulative GPA will be automatically considered. For the engineering management degree, you will need a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from an ABET accredited school. It is a 3.0 GPA on all coursework prior to the receipt of the engineering degree or the last 60 hours. There is a conditional admission process for that. So anywhere between a 2.5 and a 2.9 GPA will be considered on a case-by-case basis. And we will be happy to answer any admission questions at the end of the presentation if you have anything specific you would like to ask our staff. So we often get asked why either one of these degrees. We like to spread the word about our motto. You can learn it today and use it tomorrow. Many of our student testimonials on our social media platforms, the students usually will comment and say, you know, I learned something, you know, in chapter 5 that night, and the next day I was able to go in and tell my boss, hey, I've got a great idea. I know how to improve a process, or I know how to, you know, lead a team a little bit better. I've got some ideas. So they always say that they're continuing to be able to apply everything immediately. It is a 100% online degree. There are options to take some on-campus classes, specifically for our international students. Again, we'd be happy to answer any of those questions you may have. It is a non-thesis program, and you can learn from professors with current and relevant expertise. The degree plan is very flexible. There's only 10 graduate courses. We'll get to this in just a moment after we hear from one of our instructors, but you can earn a graduate certificate concurrently or a MicroCertificate without taking any extra courses. And you are actually able to stack your certificates as you earn a master's degree. There's no out-of-state tuition. A total for a 3-hour class is about $1,062. So depending on other fees or depending on the situation of what type of student you are, the tuition may vary, but we like to tell our students that you can finish a Master of Science in our programs for less than $15,000, which is very affordable compared to other programs. So today we have a special guest. He is one of our instructors, and he is going to be discussing specifically how operations management and healthcare are a specific discipline that a lot of students probably don't realize. It is a course that he teaches, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jacob. Welcome, Jacob, and we'll be interested to learn about your healthcare course.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for the introduction. So one of the things I just want to highlight is, one of the things I wanted to highlight was just the experience that we have as faculty. So, Walmart's in Fayetteville, and they had the #1 in the country in terms of company size and revenue, and a lot of people from there work in our program. The Walton College of Business is ranked top 5, I think maybe even 1 last year for supply chain. And in our course or our program, we teach supply chain, have a lot of those professionals. So my background is medicine and med tech, venture capital, and excited to teach this course. And I kind of had a unique experience as well. The whole application of the program towards what you're doing in business is one thing I love about the program. I graduated back in 2015 from the program, and I used it to help develop policy and project management workflows for the hospital system that I work for, and we manage intellectual property. So excited to teach this class. I redesigned the class a couple years back and have been teaching it ever since. So here are the course objectives from a high level. You can read through these. The main thing I want to highlight is STARK and anti-kickback. So if you are a hospital administrator, you can do jail time and get fined if you break the rules. And so a lot of people don't understand that. And when you see these big cases in the news, that happens. One of the doctors that I worked with, he happened to him and some of his business partners because they weren't being ethical. So you want to be ethical and have it happen. Another person in the program, they work for a system that same thing happened in their system. The leadership above them did some jail time as well based on that. So oral surgeon who was just practicing medicine, had a business on the side, ended up he's spent over a year in prison based on that. So really sad situation, but that's one thing that I want to highlight in this course. So you have the thing that you guys probably care most about. I will kind of skip here to the back half and then come back and walk through this. I'm not going to take very long going through this, but the thing that everyone cares the most about is, what am I actually practically doing in the class? So we have 2 case papers. Here's how everything's weighted out. So we put a lot of weight on the case study and the policy paper. So I go through a STARK and kickback case and ask some questions about it, and then you write an essay back to that, and then there's a policy paper, same thing. So it's designed similar to the healthcare reform policy, but it's a little bit less aggressive than that and shorter. I took a refined section of it and have you review it. So I do give bonus opportunity if students need it. The unlimited attempts on quizzes, so as you work through, I want you to just learn the content and go through those. We have a large bank of questions, so cycling through those, taking multiple times, be helpful for you just to learn the curriculum. So the idea of this is practical application rather than memorization, which I think is one of the big benefits of our program. So with that in mind, I'll round back. So this is a healthcare centric class, but we designed it in a way that it applies to everyone. So anybody who is dealing with, so here are the different areas that you could fall into and get application, which is essentially everybody. A lot of the human resource management, this class is definitely one. I'm helping redesign one of our advanced human resources classes this semester that Neil is going to be teaching later. And this dovetails nicely. So if you look at all the curriculum for human resources, I would definitely say take this one. You learn a lot about employee benefits in the program, Medicare, Medicaid, managed care, and health insurance. So even if you're an employee or if you manage a division, these are important to know how to apply these to your business. Policy formation, company and policy benefits, and healthcare analysis and strategy. So even if you're the top of the organization, the C-suite, having insight to this is really important. Your HR leaders will be in the C-suite as well and help with talent retention and growth and promotion, which I think is important. So I just want to show you this. This is the site for human resource management is a core fundamental concept that we learn in a lot of courses in the program. I touch on it in my course, so this is it for you, but it just has a broader viewpoint and applies these principles more broadly in whatever organization you're in, which is one of the reasons that we have these two open case study responses so that you can take them in any direction, apply it to your area of practice. Again, this is kind of a high level review course. So we take a broad landscape and there's not a whole lot of practical application. There are other classes that are, there's a lot of practical application, but it's broader. We do have those two essay papers where you can apply it, but it's not like you're doing an independent study on your specific area, but you do have some freedom to operate. But because it is an overview course, we have a lot of concepts we have to cover, and a lot of those quizzes help you stay on track with those. So HRMM is the Association for Healthcare Resources Material Management. So we use a lot of their theory and practical application in the course, keep it up to date. I wanted to show you this. This is a diagram. We do have a supply chain section in the course, or a block in the course, so you can apply healthcare strategy and policy to project management, right? And so that overlay is one of the things that, the reason I joined the program and decided to join the program was to be able to understand that and grow those skills. And I like to share those with students in our program. We reviewed this already. So this brings us to the end of my presentation. So thank you guys for listening, and I'll let Kieran take it away.
Thanks, Jacob. That was just a quick overview of one of the courses that Jacob teaches. If you are in healthcare and have any questions, or if you are interested in taking the course, we'd be happy to answer any questions you have at the end of the presentation. But we'll keep going and we'll talk a little bit about our certificates now. And I know Dr. Rich Ham is on, and he just did a recent presentation on stacking certificates and what the benefit of those are. So I'd be happy if he wants to jump in at any time, but let's quickly go over what we do offer. So the graduate certificates we have are in project management, Lean Six Sigma, Homeland Security, and our newest ones are a certificate in operations management and engineering management. So it is a dialed down version of the Master of Science program. So if you are interested in those areas and just want to try a certificate out, this is one way that you could enter into your Master of Science program later on if you wish to continue on. And so again, that's going to go back to kind of a stacking, but for the graduate certificates that we offer, they are 4 classes. Again, you can obtain it as part of your degree. The classes will double count, but it can also be completed as a standalone program. It is a 2.5 GPA for admission. There's no GRE or GMAT required for admission. And again, it is one way that you can transfer into one of the Master of Science programs. Now, the graduate microcertificates are something that we have that are brand new, but gaining quickly in popularity among current students and even some of our prospective students, because they are only 2 classes. So we offer 6 new microcertificates in advanced air mobility and autonomous operations. That certificate specifically can feed into the Homeland Security certificate. Both can be obtained again while you're earning your master's degree, or they can be standalone programs. Analytics for operations managers, decision support for operations managers, leading operational change, systems engineering analytics, and then systems engineering and engineering management. So depending on which certificate you are interested in, there are certain requirements. Some of these do require a STEM degree, which again, we'd be happy to answer any questions. We can get you in contact with an advisor that of course can work with you and kind of dial down as far as what your specific needs or wants are. But these are only 2 classes. Again, You can obtain it as part of another degree program or standalone. The same admission requirements as far as the GPA, which is a 2.5 required or above, no GRE, and then again, a way to transition into. So if Dr. Rich Ham is available, he did, like I said, did a presentation. Dr. Ham, do you want to chime in as far as, what the latest and newest reason for stacking certificates would be?
Sure. Thanks, Karin. I won't reiterate everything, but at least a couple of high points from before and why we see, this change. And a lot of it has to do with the requirements that have morphed from employers over the last several years, but also what employees are looking for. The days are gone where you would make a decision, hey, here's my next job. 5 years from now, I want to prepare. I'm going to take 2 or 3 years to finish my master's degree as the only path. That path is still viable for several people, but what we see is with the technology changing drastically, and we also see that people are making different decisions. They may want to go to another line of business for a period of time. They may see an opportunity that they know is going to come up in 6 months. And so the idea of stacking does two things for you. It allows you on your way to a master's degree or a full certificate or something that's going to help you, that it allows you to get these immediate short-term milestones of certificates that would be recognized and that employers would see that you've developed a skill set, and on your way to developing even a deeper skill set that you would be able to present, shows on your transcript, and you would be able to move and do these other areas. And the other is we have people that are retooling. They already have a master's degree, and so they sometimes will say, I have a master's degree, perhaps in engineering in a technical field, but I'm finding myself doing a lot of operations management. And so, the certificate in operations management certainly would help me to understand. Or you're in charge of a system that has added autonomy, and so you see, I've moved jobs, and I see now we're going to start using drones for inventory management inside of our distribution center, or there's some things in supply chain that I want to understand. Or you just have your personnel, it's in your portfolio that you have as an ops manager. So the idea, the reason that we took this journey some years ago is really direct feedback from employers and employees that they need to be having these intermediate milestones to help them understand. You may not be an engineer, but you might find yourself managing or supervising engineers. And so therefore you need to learn something about what's going on in their workspace and understand a little bit more so you can provide the right leadership. And the last is just simply, it kind of goes back to what I said before, but in some cases, it's just that the current job that you're in is changing. It's morphing. You're having to add new things. Many operations managers report, specifically in the supply chain, that they suddenly found themselves having to have expertise in the requirements for Homeland Security and how cargo moves and what those requirements are. So understanding both the compliance and how to manage risk in those areas became important to them, something that they really weren't concerned about 10 or 15 years ago, and now it's a part of the daily job. So in conclusion or summary, just of the kind of Reader's Digest version of this, these do a really good job. These 4 areas kind of summarize where we see the trends, and I will say the trend, if anything, has been accentuated and expanding over those areas. And as a consequence, as we see these other areas that people are needing to understand, we continue to see, is there a new area, a microcertificate or a certificate that makes sense for demand? So before the program ever puts that out, we've already spent significant time looking at what the market demand is, what employers say about that area, and what employees say, hey, this is an area that I really need to understand. Either I want to move there, or I'm already being asked to develop this proficiency, and so they want to prepare themselves for it. So happy to answer questions at any time, even either now or rather at the end, or anytime if someone has a question about these areas and how it can help you in your career.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Ham. Here's a quick screenshot of Jacob's contact information. If anybody has any specific questions about his course in healthcare policies and issues, or any other questions you might have for him for what he briefly mentioned in his part of the presentation. But again, we'd like to keep these informations fairly short because we want you to be able to ask whatever questions you do have. These are our summer information sessions about our program, so we want to quickly thank you for attending. Our contact information is up on the screen. Please type any questions you may have in the chat box, or specifically reach out via email, and we can connect you immediately with an advisor if you have any questions. But again, this session is being recorded, so you will get a copy of this if you have any colleagues that may be interested, or maybe, if you're interested in a program and want to pass this along to a supervisor or anyone else in your workplace, please feel free to do so. Our websites are there on the screen as well: operations-management or engineering-management.uark.edu. So any questions? If you don't have any questions, just let us know that in the chat box that we may have, covered something that you were interested in, or maybe you have other questions. And if you don't have any questions, just quickly let us know in the chat and we'll know to end the presentation. But we want to thank you again for joining, and for Dr. Ham and for Jacob for their time today, and them chiming in for the presentation as well.
Does anyone have any questions?
Well, if there are none, I don't see anyone typing in the chat box. So Jacob, thank you. Dr. Ham, thank you. And other staff members. Oh, here we go. Robert chimed in. So when does the next semester start? So great question. We operate on 5 8-week sessions, and that may have gotten omitted in one of my slides. So I truly apologize for that. That's usually in one of those bullet points. So we operate on 8-week sessions, and those are 5 sessions per year. Again, I can follow up, Robert, after this if you'd like, but our next session is going to be fall 8-week 1, which is going to start in August. I'd have to look up the specific date, but we have an 8-week 2 that starts in October. And then the same thing kind of happens in the spring, where we'll have an 8-week 1 session that starts in the spring in January. And then we have a second 8-week, thank you, Jacob, 8-week 2 is from October 12th to December 8th. So you can kind of get a feel for how we work. And then we do have a summer session. We only have 1 summer session. So we'll have 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring, and then 1 session in the summer. So if you are interested in the Master of Science program with 10 graduate courses required, that's 30 hours total. Most students will take 1 course per 8-week session, and that usually gets them finishing up in about 18 months. If some folks who are either in between jobs or, decided to take a break and just focus solely on one of their programs or their degree, they can kind of double up. And we have seen students finish in 1 year. That is a little bit more aggressive than what our typical student would be, but anywhere between 18 months and 2 years would be a completion time with the 5 8-week sessions. And Lisa, thank you for chiming in. Fall 8-week 1 begins on August 22nd. That's the date I had in my head, but I didn't want to misspeak. So Robert, I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, the other thing I would just say is you're considering like joining the program or utilizing this. The two things that people don't always know about is if you're with a larger corporation, there's continuing education money that all corporate will just put in your handbook and not tell you a lot about. So if your manager hasn't developed a specific budget for you, look at your corporate policy, because a lot of times you can get reimbursed for taking these courses. And then two, if you have a conversation with your manager, you might be able to build it into your promotion plan and utilize this to get to the next step in your career. So just keep all of those things in mind as you're looking at these as well.
And we want to thank you for participating, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.